Hear now this reading from the Gospel of Luke. It comes from chapter 6 and begins at verse 27. But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies. Do good to them and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. These are the words of Jesus from the Gospel of Luke. Those are some hard words. It's kind of like I want to say, Jesus, can we pick some others, please? But they're in red letters right there in the Bible I just read from, with no editing. So let me shift gears for just a minute. First, a few questions. Audience participation time. Raise your hand. By a show of hands, I want to take a quick poll. Who here likes brownies with nuts? I'm with you, whoever said that. But a few of you are nut lovers, huh? You must like me. I'm very nutty. My kids hate it when I do that. Who here likes brownies without nuts? I love it. Who doesn't care either way? They're just going to eat brownies. Why am I pointing at Stuart? Okay, another question. Who here knows the famous verse, John 3:16? Say it with me then. You can say it whatever translation you like. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but will have eternal life. Right, many of you know that. Okay, here's another one. Who here in this room identifies as a Christian? Can I ask you an honest question about that one? Does anybody find it difficult? When I hear readings like that, I find it impossible. Honest. I don't want to love my neighbor. I do not want to lend to my enemy and not expect repayment. When somebody steals from me, I don't want to go offer them more. And yet, I want to be a Christian. I don't know what to do with that. Honest. So Jesus and Christianity as a concept are easier for me to embrace. The concept. Do you find that too? But the reality of Jesus and the actual words recorded in the red letters in some Bibles, well, that's where the rubber meets the road, folks. And then add to those words other Christian scriptures and ideas. Insert lots of things Paul has to say about all that. Some commands, others say, well, they're suggestions. And I say yes to some and ouch to others. And just flat out, are you kidding me? To a few. Well, I personally find being a Christian, being a follower of Jesus, a follower of the way, quite difficult. And yet, I don't find it difficult to be a good person. And I don't say that boastfully, just the way I grew up. I'm going to help people. I'm built to do that. I'm built to do the right things. I just don't steal. I try really hard to be a good person. And by the way, I've noticed that you do that too. You all are some of the most incredible humans I have ever met, and I mean that. You give and give and give, and you love and love and love. I so wish being a Christian meant that being a good person was enough. That when I would do good, God would say, nailed it. But folks, Jesus has something to say to us that is not only difficult to hear, I find it personally nearly impossible to live, to act on consistently, and especially to witness to. At least, I tell you, some good news. Jesus didn't tell us we had to like our enemies. So there we go, right? He just said we had to love them. So it's something. I mentioned to Stuart a few weeks ago that I felt called to share a message from this pulpit, a message about hope. We've had a tough time of it here in our community over the last several months, haven't we? Pretty tough time. And nothing, and I mean nothing, gets us more riled up than elections, the buildup, the day of, and the fallout afterwards. Oh my goodness. And the way we do things in our country plays right into our basic instincts to divide up into groups, figure out who's in, and especially who's out. And something really weird, and you've seen this, we sometimes switch teams. We make new allegiances. Our alliances change a little bit, especially our core beliefs, depending upon how our team is doing and who's the spokesperson for the team. And we find ourselves rooting for one team to win, and we can't wait to cheer the other team's defeat. You see it all the time. Unless someone here thinks this is unique to us in this time and place, well, heck, we read about it all the time, don't we? Every single year we celebrate and remember Palm Sunday, don't we? Crucify him, the crowds called out. Crucify him. Give us Barabbas, not this man. Hearing that and remember that can be at once both natural, because we do it every year, and it's very jarring and sad even. I mean, how could they? This was Jesus. They knew Jesus. They'd been hearing about his miracles all over. I mean, it's the carpenter's son, a real living human being who's trying to do good. Looked and felt a lot like those that were there in the crowd jeering. And yet, crowds do what crowds are going to do. And hate had temporarily won the day. Let me change gears for a minute. How about a song? I'd like to sing a song that was written by Jason Robert Brown. I know Jason Robert Brown from the musicals that I've had a chance to music direct and that he has written. But he wrote this song in November of 2016, about a week in after the election. And the song is titled Hope. song about hope. I'm not despised, I'm not inspired much right now, but even so, I came out here to sing a song, so here I go. I guess I think that if I tinker long enough, one might appear. And look, it's here. One verse is done, the work begun. I come to sing a song about hope, in spite of everything ridiculous and sad. Though I'm beyond belief depressed, confused, and mad. Well, I got dressed. I underestimated how much that would take. But I didn't break until right now. I sing of hope and don't know how. So maybe I can substitute strength because I'm strong enough. I got through lots of things I didn't think I could, and so did you. I know it's true. And so we sing a song about hope, though I can't guarantee there's something real behind it. I have to try to show my daughters I can find it. And so today, when life is crazy and impossible to bear, it must be there. Fear never wins. That's what I hope. See, I said hope. The work begins. So what gets in our way? Why is it that we Christians or wannabe Christians struggle to model, much less claim and reflect hope in our lives sometimes? This is a question I ask myself often. Now, I'm not talking about hope as that wishful thinking, easy to say, well, I hope blah, 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 or my hope is blah, blah, blah. For example, I've said it hundreds of times. I really hope they get better, or that I hope that surgery goes well, or that I hope the rain doesn't come or isn't too bad. I really hope I get that job, or that my child gets into that school, or I hope that Pastor Stewart preaches a good word today, or. It's easy to hope for something, right? Nope. That's not really the kind of hope I want to focus on. That kind of hope is fleeting, really. More of a statement of intention, not really a belief or an action. I want to focus our attention for a few more moments on deeper, more biblical hope. The kind that is rooted in assurance. Hope that occurs because we trust that God is God and that Jesus is Lord. Do you believe that? That God is actually God? Do you believe that Jesus is actually Lord? Do you? Do you? If you do, then you probably understand the difference I'm making here between fleeting hope and biblical hope. If we trust that God created everything, and I mean everything, and remember that God declared it good, didn't he? On the first day. And what did God say after the first day? It was good. And what did God say after the second day? It was good. And what did God say after the sixth day? It was good. You are good. If we believe that, and then further profess and believe that Jesus is Lord, truly reigns over everything, then, and catch this, when things as we perceive them are not going our way, and that happens a lot, whether it be a sickness, a missed opportunity, a broken relationship, a massive injustice that we are aware of, a situation where my team didn't win, dagnabbit. When things aren't going my way at the moment, at least I can rest on the assurance that God is God and Jesus is Lord. And eventually the God of love wins, folks. Not sometimes, every single freaking time. God wins. Love does prevail. Period. Yet, Chuck Taft, either I forget that or I forget to witness to that. I lose my center sometimes. That assurance that love wins every single time, not sometimes. Now that is hope worth witnessing and clinging to. And do you remember I said earlier that you are some of the most incredible humans ever? I wasn't just flattering, although it is a smart thing for the preacher to do, flatter the congregation. I mean it. I've stood with you all as we served the community. I've been with you as we were sweeping up the mess afterwards. I've gotten the pleasure of praying with you as you lean in hard even when it's difficult. I have caught many of you living out this kind of hope in your lives. It isn't easy, just like today's reading in the Gospel of Luke isn't easy, but it's possible, right? Why in the heck would Jesus ask us to do this, though? I mean, forgiving people's hard enough, isn't it? I mean, can we be honest? Forgiving people that have harmed us is hard. But loving our enemies, come on, man. For many, and even some in this room today, that command is simply a bridge too far. Nice words, Jesus, but you simply just don't understand. This isn't how the world works, especially not in the 21st century, right? I mean, do you agree or not? Do you ascribe to the notion that the ends justify the means? Or do you have faith more like Thomas Jefferson did? Do you remember that heavily edited personal copy of the New Testament he would keep by his bedside? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Thomas Jefferson literally went through and cut out sections of the scriptures in the New Testament that he didn't agree with and or that didn't match his personal philosophy. Literally cut them out. And then he would read his Bible regularly. That's just weird, isn't it? We would say that is downright wrong, wouldn't we? I mean, we can't simply pick up and choose which scriptures or words of Jesus to keep or to follow and which to exclude and ignore, can we? Or do we sometimes? Jesus can really challenge us. In reality, that's exactly what we do, folks. Probably all of us in this room, and you're the most amazing folks I know. We all love the passages where people get healed, right? I do. We particularly love it when Jesus rails against corrupt leaders, especially the super duper, I'm not looking at you, the super duper religious ones. We love it when Jesus goes after them. We love the mighty acts Jesus does, especially the tender mercies and care he shows for others. Tons of stories about that. But all these rules of life, especially how we Christians should live and be in relationship with God, with each other, and with ourselves, well, many of those commandments got to be more like suggestions, or at least that's how the world perceives us Christians to think and act. I hear it all the time at the university from my students. Why can't Christians live like they actually believe what they profess? It's a huge indictment to me. And I have to own it and claim it and admit I'm not perfect and I mess it up a lot. Thanks be to God, God's mercy is greater than that. But I believe, and I genuinely think you believe, that there is a better way. And that as followers of the way, as Christians, we can always do better and should do better, especially when we as a society seem to be veering in the wrong direction. Maybe we too get caught up in the mob and find ourselves strangely yelling, "Crucify him!" And we're not yelling to crucify the person of Jesus of Nazareth. But I'm sure in our mind we're thinking, God, please smite somebody. I bet somebody comes to your mind sometimes. Anyone? There's another way, folks. My daughter, Kaylee, she came and sang here at Christmas time. Our oldest was just about 5 or 6. Such a sweet time between a parent and a child. We would lay in her darkened room at night, remembering her day and saying our prayers together. I bet many of you have done that. And those days when something hurtful or bad or scary had happened to her, we made extra times for those moments so she could feel them and face those feelings and figure out how she was going to respond to those feelings now and going forward. I remember several conversations where we talked about the playground bullies or the classroom meanies. And after a few times, we developed this idea together, her and I, that people's words and intentions are just that. They're just words. And as long as they aren't physicalized, meaning that the person on the playground didn't actually hit you or kick you, and if they did, I really encourage her to run as fast as possible to the closest adult, because that's not how we live together. We don't bop each other in the nose. But if they were just words, then maybe she wouldn't have to absorb those. Meaning she didn't have to take those words on. They would definitely call her ugly, and that didn't mean she was actually ugly. They might call Kaylee dumb, but in reality, I'm going to boast here, Kaylee was actually the smartest kid in her class. So people's words did not change the reality. They were just words. Anyway, you get the idea. So Kaylee and I developed this strategy, this way of being, through our many nighttime conversations. And that strategy was that words were like water being shot from a water gun at her. Now stick with me for a minute. She could either put on a raincoat or a beach towel when those situations showed up. If she put on a beach towel, oh my God, the water would literally stick to her. It just would stay there. And ultimately, he's going to keep going, isn't he? She would get cold and damp. I can feel it going through my jacket right now. Isn't that how that works, right? Or she could put on a raincoat. And when those words started coming at her, they literally would fall off. It's how it works. Stuart, I love you. Man, I love you. Thank you. Double-fisted water gun, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Did he do good? Now, did you catch that? This is a 5 and 6-year-old, and we're working on it because we can't control what other people are going to do, but we can control what those things are going to do to us. If it's not physical, we don't have to absorb it. And so Kaylee and I, and truly, I love being a parent. I learned so much about myself in those moments, and I learned I can put on a raincoat too. And so I did. And so the words would simply just fall off. They never landed. Who she was at her core as a beautiful child of God was the same before, after the spewing event. I mean, haters were going to hate, but she didn't have to get caught up in the haters' drama. And that was their problem, not hers. Kaylee was going to choose to live her truth and be the best version of who she could and was. Who she could be and who she was. After several days of practicing, we moved on to something else, the difficult work of having empathy for and actually trying to find room in our hearts together to love the people that were saying the ugly words, even when they were giving off very unlovable vibes. Now, folks, she was 6. And she caught it so fast. And here I am in my late 30s or early 40s at this point. And I was like, no way, I want to go punch that kid in the face. And then I'm having to catch, no, wait a minute. That's not what the red letters say. I needed to switch my beach towel out for a raincoat. So we worked hard. We prayed even harder together, honest prayers that only a kid can offer. But we worked together so that over time, she wasn't absorbing hate. She was radiating love back to the folks that she encountered. She actually befriended some of those schoolyard bullies. One of them is still her friend today. Others just learned that Kaylee was made different. Wouldn't we wish that the world thought that people at First Baptist Church Weaverville, well, we're just made different. We love enemies. We give without expecting repayment. I think we can do this. So back to Luke 6 for just a minute. Why in the world would Jesus ask this of us in such a ridiculous manner? Did you catch where it said, if they take your coat, give them your shirt as well? Bull. To be honest, almost all of us would simply remind Jesus that that isn't how the world works. Jesus, how about you get back to helping us be better at taking care of the poor and widows? That we can buy into. Oh, and yeah, we need a little help with work on this forgiveness thing, but let's not get too crazy with this love stuff, especially the love your neighbors. But weirdly, Jesus knows best. Eugene Peterson writes it like this: there's trouble ahead when you live only by the approval of others. To you who are ready for the truth, I say this: love your enemies. Let them bring out the best in you, not the worst. When someone gives you a hard time, respond with the energies of prayer for that person. If someone slaps you in the face, stand there and do your best to take it. If someone grabs your shirt, gift wrap your best coat and make a present of it. If someone that takes unfair advantage of you, use the occasion, hear this, to practice the servant life. No more tit for tat stuff. Live generously. But if we truly believe that God is God and that Jesus is Lord over all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, then true belief models that love is complete, total, all-encompassing, and that our hurts, when they occur or our team seems to be losing, fear is not the best response to healing ourselves and what ails our society. Love is. Easy to say, harder to do. In the midst of lost elections or schoolyard bullies or hope built on a sure foundation, we sang about it last week, a solid rock makes forgiveness the norm, love more genuine, and our witness more powerful. This is how us Christians start to be known by our love. Love for God, love for our neighbor and self, and yes, even love for our enemies. We witness to what it means to be loved completely for our goodness and our brokenness. We witness to ourselves, our friends, and our family, and the world that what love looks like, what love does. No sermon can capture every nuance and the totality of the gospel message. But today, I not only sang about hope, or prayed about hope, and preached about hope, I want to share some hope. And you already know it, folks. Because God is God and we are not, and that is good news. And because Jesus is Lord over what? Everything, we, you and I, and Stuart said this earlier, are not responsible for all that is wrong in the world. We are responsible for being the best version of who our loving God created us to be. We are responsible for rehearsing, repenting, and living a life built upon the same love, grace, and mercy that God shares freely and abundantly with us. Yes, Jesus was caught saying the craziest things when he walked this earth. This love your enemy things might have been the craziest. But luckily, being a Christian, definitely a wannabe Christian, I'm trying really hard, I want to be, a follower of the way doesn't involve sanity. It doesn't. It's not a requirement. It simply requires a lifetime of practice in loving completely, with our whole being, loving God, loving our neighbors, even the hardest ones to love, and loving ourselves. Church, let's put on our raincoats. We can do this. Go out to Weaverville and beyond, and let's get caught loving, not absorbing all that hate in the world. Amen.